Hi guys, it's Andy from Man City Fan TV and welcome to this preview for tomorrow night's game. It's Liverpool versus City at the Etihad, 8:15 kickoff in the UK. And what we've done for this preview is we've brought on two big Liverpool fans. And first off, I'll let them introduce themselves. First up, we've got Nick. Nick, tell us a little bit about yourself, mate. Obviously, you're a Liverpool fan by your top.
Yes, Liverpool fan and still on cloud nine after last week and claiming the title. But yeah, I'm all the way in Melbourne, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed at 7 a.m. here, recording this. But yeah, I'm a big football lover. I'm looking to hopefully have a career in football journalism. Yeah, love writing, reading, and watching the game. I've played it from a young age and been a Liverpool fan for as long as I can remember. And really looking forward to having a chat for the next half hour or so.
Brilliant. I take it you're one of the ones who go to the Imperial part. Are you part of the Liverpool supporters club out there or something?
Yeah, I go every now and then whenever I sort of can. It is difficult with the time difference here, and given the living in the suburbs and getting into the city at that time isn't always super easy, and especially for the big games, it's nigh impossible to even get a seat or get a look in. But yeah, whenever I can, I'll try and get down.
Brilliant. We've got Callum as well. Callum, how are you, mate? Whereabouts are you?
Yeah, good. I'm on the northern beaches of Sydney here, so probably a tiny bit warmer than down in Melbourne, but definitely a lot colder than how England is at the moment, by all things. But yeah, just based up here in Sydney, from a big Scouse family, obviously, a long time suffering Liverpool fan. We've got a bit of a split within our family, though. Half the family is blue, half that family is red. But just it's quite funny, obviously surreal that we've won the league now, and with a little bit of time to spare, you think, cool, we've won it, season's over. But funnily enough, our season here starts tomorrow. I look after the local first grade side here, and we kick off our season tomorrow. And that club was founded by Evertonians, so it's a little bit of a mixed background there.
You played with Spencer, didn't you? Spencer Pryor.
Yeah, so Spencer was involved in football here in the Northern Beaches for many, many years. We always used to talk because he played in the last stand of the Cop for Norwich City as well. So he was there the last day that the Cop had the standing terrace. So we used to talk about that quite a lot. But yeah, I was involved with coaching and playing with him here for a little while as well. He was around the traps for a while.
Brilliant. Well, we've got obviously Alan. Everybody on the channel knows Alan, so I'm not going to ask him to introduce himself on there. Right, we've got some questions for tonight. We're going to kick off the first one. Before I do, since we've got to be magnanimous with the whole thing. So congratulations on winning your first Premier League trophy in 30 years.
Thank you very much.
So through gritted teeth.
Andy, can I say something before we start?
No, you can't. We're going to move on. I'm worried about what you might say. We're going to move on to the first one. And that is thoughts on tomorrow's game. So I'm going to come to you first, Nick. So what are your thoughts on tomorrow's game?
It's going to be a very interesting one because obviously the dynamic is completely different from really any other meeting the two would have had. Like you said, there's one hand where we've won the league and we could roll out some of the kids, give some fringe players a go, knowing that we can sort of just coast through these last few weeks and look ahead to next season. And the same can be said for City. They got nothing left to play for in the league. I think second is probably a formality, and then obviously once the Champions League rolls around, that will be number one priority. I'm not entirely sure. I wouldn't think that any reigning champion would have ever given a guard of honour to the incumbent champion of the next year. So I think that I think that'll add a bit of spite, and Liverpool will come in and say, okay, we've won the league. We're going to come and prove that we would deserve champions, and we want to beat you and prove that we're the better team. And City, on the other hand, want to say, okay, well, you can have the league this year, but as a little preview into next season, we're going to be coming back and we'll be hot on your tail. So I think both will be fired up. Both will come in with strong lineups, and there'll be plenty of goals, as there often has been at the Etihad in the last few years. And yeah, I think it'll be a great clash.
Okay, Alan, I heard I listened to Danny Murphy. I think it was yesterday, and it's obviously come out today in social media and everything. But I actually was listening to it while it was on, and at the time I sort of went when he said it, but I didn't think really much of it. And then today it's just all blown up on social media, the fact that he was talking about Kevin De Bruyne and things like that, and talking about the Guard of Honour, and he says, nonsense, I don't know why they do it, blah, blah, blah. And can you imagine if you're Kevin De Bruyne, seeing all these people giving them a Guard of Honour when their midfield, they couldn't even lace his boots? And at the time I thought, that's a bit harsh. But never give it a second thought other than bit of a strange comment to make as an ex-Liverpool player. And then today it's absolutely blown up, and he has come out and made an apology and said I was probably the wrong choice of words and things like that. What are your thoughts on tomorrow? And obviously Danny Murphy's
it's a sort of a tradition, isn't it? And that you do a Guard of Honour, and in one way it might fire City up, because if I had to give a Guard of Honour to our main rivals that we don't particularly like, it would hurt you. Especially when we've happened the last 2 years, it would actually hurt the players while they're doing it. So that might get them fired, not only for the game on the night against Liverpool, but also for the season after. Thinking, we want our title back, we're not having this, I'm not doing this again. So in one way, I hope it hurt. I really do hope it hurts them, because it hurt me last week.
Yeah, I think Alex Ferguson was the one who brought in the Guard of Honour, by all accounts, and listening to it on TalkSport yesterday. And the reason he brought it in, he wanted to bring it in for his players to say, there you go, I hope it hurts you, and I hope you remember this, given this opposition next season, and that as a motivation going forward. So Pep seems quite happy. I don't know. Are you getting messages up or something there?
Yeah, we just showed at the West Ham we've won 3-2 against us.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. So maybe Pep seems to be quite comfortable with it. Callum, what are your thoughts on the game tomorrow and the Guard of Honour?
Well, to be honest, I think Nick made a good point about, it's a debate whether they go, right, we've won the league, relax a bit, get the players out there. I think to be honest, Jurgen's gone into training and he's banged the drum and he's gone, right, we want to put this beyond all doubt. I think you've got that sort of in the back of a lot of players' mind of, the whole asterisk thing, and I was just thinking about it. You ask any player, any fan, any team, if they were in that position, would they care about what's gone on this season? And, would it lessen the trophy win for them? I think heading into the break with such a big lead deceived a lot of people. But you got to remember, we lost the last 3 games before we went into that break, albeit in different competitions. You've got to have a look and go, right, Liverpool, this is really the first major test since coming back. Obviously the Everton result was a bit disappointing, a bit flat-footed. I think, to be honest, you're going to see their starting lineup, their strongest possible team. I wouldn't be surprised if you see people like Lallana, maybe even Shaqiri get thrown in, just purely to put them in the shop window, because by all accounts they're all going. I also think you're probably going to see the involvement of people like Harvey Elliott. As a second sort of foil, not dissimilar to the way that Foden's sort of been brought in from City. And, people are going, we don't need a replacement for Silva because, there's Foden. I think in a lot of ways, that's a backup for someone like Salah or Mane, who, let's be fair, haven't really had a major injury that has put them out for a long period of time. So The reason why Liverpool are all in the position they are is the consistency and the ability to play their strongest lineup every week. So I don't see why he would lessen that team. As for the Guard of Honour, it's really funny because I thought, I wonder how much you're going to delve into these Danny Murphy comments. As soon as it went on, my mates have gone on the WhatsApp group, thoughts, trying to steer the boat. I just kept my mouth shut because it's really funny. Danny Murphy is always going to hold a special place in my heart, and you'll probably appreciate this. We actually secured tickets to a Man United Liverpool game, which is obviously a massive derby for us. And we couldn't talk because we were in the Man United section. Danny Murphy's Gerrard's gone down. Danny Murphy's taken the penalty right in front of us, and he scored, slotted. We've won 1-0, and I've almost jumped up to celebrate. My dad's pulled me down at the time, and I was about 14. So I've got a lot of time for Danny Murphy, but he's actually said some really Liverpool biased things in the past. So then to come out this way, I'm not sure if he's trying to battle that bias or he's just said something and gone, KDB has scored a great goal, unbelievable, he looks the business, nobody's fit to lace their boots. But I'll be honest, I think anybody in the Man City or Liverpool midfield, if you're playing for those two sides at this current point in time, you deserve to be there. And I think the Guard of Honour is just going to be a nice formality. Very interesting to see whether there's any reaction between Sterling and Gomez, though. That'll be
that's what I mean. Don't forget. I mean, looking at it at the moment, you play 31, we play 31. You've got 70 goals. We're on 77. You've got 86 points. We're on 63. 7 games to go. You could get, if you win every single game, you could get 108 points, which would be phenomenal. It'd break out 17-18 season of 100 points. We could get a maximum this season of 84. We look at the points last season, we got 98 with 95 goals, but the season before with 100 points and 106 goals. I think the goals are out of your reach, if I'm honest, with 7 games to go, unless you're banging in like 5 goals a game. I don't think it's going to happen. But the 100 points, Centurions, is definitely on. You're only 14 points away from that with 7 games to go. It's 2 points a game. So there is motivation there, definitely, for you. Well, we'll leave the Guard of Honour. We'll see what happens. We'll see if Gomez is part of that 11 walking out and if Sterling plays and things. It's going to be interesting if he does. And it wouldn't surprise me if Klopp did actually throw Gomez in just because he knows Sterling will probably play. But anyway, what we'll do is look for your lineups, and I'll go to Nick first for your Liverpool lineup tomorrow. Then I'll come to Alan, and then you, Callum. So Nick, what's your predicted lineup for Liverpool tomorrow then?
Yeah, much like what Callum said, I think we're going to go strong, and I think we'll go unchanged from the Crystal Palace game, which I think is, and I think it's becoming clear that Jurgen Klopp thinks it too, is the strongest 11. So Alisson, Alexander-Arnold, Gomez, Van Dijk and Robertson at the back, Fabinho at the base of the midfield, Henderson and Wijnaldum ahead of him, and then the front three. So that'll be one change from the Anfield meeting. Dejan Lovren started on that evening rather than Gomez at the back. But yeah, like I said, that has really made itself the 11 that, as a hypothetical, if we were to make a cup final and everyone's fit, or have a big game like this against Man City, I think that's Klopp's go-to. And yeah, I think that'll be the 11.
So it'd be Mane, Firmino, and Salah.
Yes, yeah, the normal front three up front. Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Alan? What would you go for lineup? Obviously, we know Leroy Sané is not going to be involved at all now. So, what's going to be your lineup for tomorrow?
Well, I'll have Edison in nets, Walker. I'm pretty much sure you'll have. I think they'll go for Otamendi, to be honest with you, because Fernandinho's out. I was tossing up between Otamendi and Garcia because he's fit again. So it could be him, but I'll go, and obviously Laporte will play. Mendy will play full back. I'm pretty sure Mendy will play because of his pace against Salah. I think that the defensive midfield, I think they'll go for Gundogan, to be honest with you, because he's a passer, and he's got a bit more forward passing movement than the other guy. KDB, and it's a toss-up between Foden and Bernardo in the centre for me, and I'm not sure which one I would go for. I'll stick my nose out and say Bernardo because he's playing against the top side, and Foden will sit on the bench. And I think that Mahrez, Sterling, and Jesus up front will be the going forward, I think.
Interesting. I'll give you mine after I've heard Callum's lineup. I don't know. It might be a quick one. You might just say the same as Nick. I don't know.
Yeah. Look, I'll be honest. I think, it very much might be the same as Nick. My only question was, I think it might be a little bit of a Klopp thing, but I'm pretty sure he's still out at the moment. But Milner, might throw him in there just to stir the pot a bit. Obviously Man City title winner, but he's just come to Liverpool and maybe taking that a little bit further.
After Milner's comments this week as well, and he
absolutely.
said, it's Liverpool and whatever else. So it's all building up to the game, isn't it? So you think he might throw in Milner?
He may be. The only difficulty is he did go down. He did take a knock. And take himself off. Whether that was just purely preventative, remains to be seen. You never really know now of how bad things are. But I'm just thinking, particularly with, you've just said Gundogan potentially in the midfield for City. Time on the ball is going to be key. I think obviously we've both got really fast front three. I think that, that's more or less going to cancel each other out. I looked through some of the stats and, I won't give away too much about what I predict the score is, but I had a look, when we beat you last time out 3-1, you absolutely murdered us on shots on target, absolutely murdered us on corners. So I think that is a very telling sign that we're going to try and play the counter. And I think that's a big part of the game, and then the press to make a break down the midfield. Whether that directly translates to Wijnaldum, Fabinho, Henderson midfield, who knows? I definitely think Fabinho and Henderson will be involved. Henderson for pure industry, a bit of creativity. Fabinho because I think with the recent goal he scored, there's echoes of the 3-1 win. That last position, could be a little bit of a question mark. I do think it will be Wijnaldum who goes in there because I think it's he and Van Dijk and Trent have played in every single game available to them at this point. I think, so it wouldn't surprise me for them to be the exact same. But who knows?
Okay. Well, my team, I've gone for something a little bit different. I say every time we do these previews, you can never, ever, ever second guess a pet team. You never get it right. Rarely ever get it right. I think one time in the last few years I've got it right. It's just impossible. I think he might do something slightly different tomorrow because exactly what you said about the counter-attack that Liverpool might play tomorrow. So I've gone Ederson in net, Walker. I've gone for, I couldn't make my mind up between Otamendi or Garcia, but I think he might go with Otamendi and Laporte and Ben Mendy at left back, Rodri holding. And then this is where the change comes in. I think he's going to play something like Kevin De Bruyne, David Silva and Phil Foden. And then Bernardo Silva and Sterling up front. And they'll be rotating in a false nine position with Foden drifting left, Kevin De Bruyne drifting right. And I think Mahrez might be dropped tomorrow. And I think he's going to play with a false nine. I think he might drop Gabby tomorrow and play something slightly a bit different with pace in that midfield that can stop the counter-attack, because I do think that's what Liverpool might play tomorrow. Draw us in with our three, if we normally play with the three up front, draw us in, and then gaps in that midfield and the transition is really quick, and then you're one-on-one against Mendy and things like, I don't know, there's only Walker who's seriously quick. So I've got a funny feeling he might do something a bit different tomorrow. Might be wrong, probably am wrong. Always am wrong if I'm being honest. But with a pep system. But anyway, that's our lineups. What about score prediction then? So come to you first, Nick.
Yeah, that's if the lineups are tough, then the score prediction is even harder. I don't know. I do think we actually might lose. I think City being unbeaten at home in 8 games, I think it is. And then the 2 home games in the league so far, 3-0 against Arsenal and 5-0 against Burnley, doesn't get much better than that. So I think maybe my head says City 2-1, my heart says Liverpool 2-1. So maybe I'll meet the middle and I'll go for a 2-2 draw. Because there's been plenty of goals at the Etihad, like I said previously. Obviously, 2-1 last season was a terrific game. Season before that, you obviously beat us 5-0. Season before that was only 1-1, and then the season before that we beat you 4-1. So there's always plenty of goals. I'm rejoicing the fact that there's going to be no Sergio Aguero, because he scores against us at the Etihad every single time. And interesting, you mentioned about Jesus as well. I think he struggles from the outside. I'm sure you'll have a more informed opinion, but I feel like he struggles in the big games sometimes. He's never really seized control, if you like, of a game against us. So I think that'll be interesting if he is pulled out and they do go with a different system. But yeah, it'll be a battle of the minds from Klopp and Guardiola, talking about counter attack and possession and whatever. So it is a tough one, but I do have a feeling that City might get up.
Interesting, Alan.
I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. I think it'll be a draw. I think we'll concede because, to be honest with you, it scares me when Otamendi plays at the back because of his lack of pace, especially against Liverpool's attack. He seems to struggle against severe pace. So with Fernandinho out, I think they'll have to pick him, to be honest with you. I don't think they'll throw a 19-year-old lad in. And Stones is definitely not fit enough to play. So I'm going to go for a draw, to be honest with you. And before I do go, I just want to apologise to all the Liverpool fans that I might have offended in my last fan camp. I was a bit emotional. I'm very sorry if I offended anybody. That's it.
Yeah, well, it was a bad night.
Yeah, I know.
It was an inevitable night, but even when it came,
it hurts. It hurts. Yeah,
of course it does. Absolutely. Yeah, you don't want to give up your title. Callum, what about you for tomorrow night?
Well, I thought about this. I looked through all the past results, and if you go on history, 2-1 pops up more than anything else. I do say, you've pointed out 2 very big things. I think they will, from a Man City point of view, I think Mahrez will start. I've had this thing in my head that Mahrez is going to do something. So, and I think they're going to score. I think it's going to be a really high scoring. I think Liverpool will score, definitely. I don't know how Otamendi still plays, if I'm being honest with you.
I agree.
And I think that Klopp will look at that and go, right, let's just punish this. And there's only so much Laporte can do, especially with the time he's had back. So I think that's definitely going to be something that they press. I think there's definitely going to be goals. If Liverpool afford City time to play and try and do exactly what I thought they'd do, which is sort of absorb the pressure and try and hit them on the break, I think that there will be, eventually somebody's going to score somewhere along the line. So I'm sort of deliberating. I think it's going to be 3-2 Liverpool. I think there's going to be a lot of goals, and I think it's going to be, particularly with the unsettled centre-back pair, let's be fair, it's been changing out Lovren and Matip, Gomez, and now they're talking, there's rumours about both Man City and Liverpool going after Koulibaly to partner that. Van Dijk's the constant there, but Van Dijk takes out one of the main attackers. It only takes, I think we've seen Sterling doing a million times before, cutting a dangerous ball in there, and it just has to go to the man who's not being marked by Van Dijk, and who knows what can happen. So I've gone 3-2 actually. I think it's going to be a lot of goals and it's going to be pretty exciting because you've got to take crowd out of it as well. Well, it is at the Etihad, so you don't know how much of a factor it is there. And
compared to the bits at Anfield.
yeah. But technically, it is. You've got to go on past form. Arsenal and Arsenal aren't the easiest team in the world to beat. And they got the business done against that at a home ground with no fans or any noise in there. So who knows? But I definitely think there'll be goals, and put me down for Mahrez to be involved in the goals at some point.
Let's make sure it's not 3 own goals.
Yeah.
That's my scoreline. I've gone for 3-2, but I've obviously gone the other way. I've gone for it to be a goal fest. I think both teams might start off a bit cagey and whatever else, but I don't think it'll take long before it gets a little bit heated. It wouldn't surprise me if there's a red card or 2 tomorrow. I think they'll really go at each other, and I think both teams will want to put a marker down and go, we're still here, or we're here and we're going to still be here next season if it's Liverpool. So I think it'll just end up in a real open game of brilliant football, 2 brilliant footballing teams. But I've got 3-2, but I've got to go City. So that's my score prediction there. I hope it's a good game. I hope it doesn't turn out after everybody's bigging this up. I hope it don't turn into a sort of 1-0.
Like the 0 last season.
Yeah, no, I really hope it doesn't. Because
Mahrez missing a penalty.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. Talk about
that.
Killed him.
Yeah. It's no. He definitely won't be taking it. That's the thing. Kevin De Bruyne now is our penalty taker. But yes, I hope it's a good game. That's all, because Liverpool have won the league. They can go for it. It doesn't matter if they. Really, in theory, if they lose 3 points, but City will want to put a marker down, I think, tomorrow. Okay, on to the last couple of questions then. And it's just really very briefly, I'll come to you, Nick, first. Who do you think will end up having the most successful season, Liverpool or City?
I think City are going to have to win the Champions League when it comes back to sort of match Liverpool's title, and then if that happens, I think really it'll be a case of 2 sides. I think Liverpool will say, we've won the league, our season's better, and Man City will say, we've won the Champions League, our season's better. Obviously, both would be massively significant in their own right for each club. Obviously, Liverpool, first one in 30 years, City, first Champions League ever, if it is to come. And then going forward, I think a week and a half until the appeal verdict will be heard, so that could be massive if City are banned for the next year or 2 or however long it was going to be. The points gap in the league is another one that sort of makes that whole who's had the better season a bit more interesting. On the balance of it, 23 points is not accurate to the quality of the 2 teams and the way the 2 teams have played this season. I think Liverpool have probably rode their luck in a fair few games, thinking late winners against Villa and Leicester and Wolves, etc. Obviously, a fantastic team have put themselves in those positions and shown that the hunger and the determination in those late game situations, which ultimately are the ones that win you points and win your leagues, turning those draws into wins. But yeah, for City, I think regardless, and Liverpool fans experienced it last season, as much as we wanted to win the league last season, the Champions League is always going to be the pinnacle of European football. So I think if City can clinch a first Champions League in their history, it'll be a massive achievement for them. And yeah, like I said, they'll definitely at least put themselves on a level playing field with Liverpool in terms of who's going to go down and have the better season. And it's something I've always envied about City, is that no matter, obviously always challenging in the league, but you're always very successful in the other competitions as well. Liverpool we haven't had a cup run in a very long time. Knocked out in the first knockout round in the Champions League to Atletico. So I think, consistency across all competitions also bodes well for City. But as a Liverpool fan, 30-year drought over, potentially likely record-breaking league season, I'll have to say that our season's been the better.
Even if City were to win the treble.
Yeah, probably more from a biased point of view. I'd be saying that, but
yeah, no, I'm only messing with you, Alan. What are your thoughts?
Well, to be honest with you, I think the Premier League is the biggest trophy in the world at the moment. One, because of the prize money. The prize money dwarfs the Champions League. When the European Cup was the European Cup in the old days, I would have said, yeah, it's the European Cup. But with a new format of the Champions League, it's more like a UEFA FA Cup, in my opinion. Yes, I'd like to win it. I want to win it, the European Cup, Champions League. But also the FA Cup's important. The difference between the two sides is City can play in all the competitions and potentially win all of them because of the size of the squad and the depth of the squad. I think if Liverpool had 4 or 5 injuries to main players in there, they would really struggle. Salah, Mane up front, and Fabinho and Van Dijk went out, you'd see Liverpool really struggle because they don't really have the depth compared to City. So City could go out and win all trophies like the FA Cup, etc. So I want City to win the FA Cup and the Champions League just to get the monkey off our back with the Champions League, to be honest with you. But our defence scares me as far as are we capable of winning the Champions League, because I don't think the defence is good enough.
Okay, Callum, thoughts then on that question? Who do you think will end up having the most successful season? Of course, you've won the Premier League first time in 30 years, but if you put the sort of first time in 30 years to one side sort of thing, do you think that it doesn't matter? That is going to be the most successful thing you'll do this season, or the most successful team this season?
Well, my question to you is, how fondly do you remember the 2001 Liverpool team that won the treble?
Yeah.
People then spoke about, we won 5 cups in a season.
That's right.
Albeit, the only one we didn't win was the league, and people still didn't look at us in the same light. You then have a look at the 2005 Istanbul team, 5th in the league, won the most glamorous Champions League final of all time, probably one of the best games of football ever played. But people still don't look at it because, you were so far off top in that. I think when you talk about consistency, you got to look at the league as the ultimate mark of consistency. The problem with Liverpool in seasons past, too many games drawn. I would love to see, how I would argue that we're easily the top team that has ever drawn in the Premier League. My God, the league titles I've seen us lose over the years because of draws is unbelievable. This season, that hasn't been the case. I think if we continue the way we're going now, you've got to look like Liverpool will be spoken in the same breath as, the great, the Invincibles, the Centurions. It'll be Liverpool 1920 season easily. I think just with the conviction that they've gone about, obviously I would have loved to go invincible. I think that the Watford game we did lose was the biggest wake up call we had, and it addressed exactly what Alan just said. We don't have a deep squad in terms of players coming off the bench or a world-class calibre. I think we will do. I think that this transfer window, if you see any activity, you're not going to see a superstar being signed. You're going to be seeing Klopp's next projects being signed. That's why you're seeing Minamino getting the side a lot more, stuff like that. Because you've got to remember, we've got, Curtis Jones, the Harvey Elliott's of the world, who are going to allow us to give us that, length and brevity to play in the FA Cup, League Cup, at a level which is going to allow us to challenge for 3-4 cups at the same time. I think if there's any year that you're going to win the Champions League, it's going to be this year, simply because of the change in format. I don't think City are a continental football team. I don't think they have been under Pep at any stage. I think lovely to watch, fantastic football, but very similar to how Rafa Benitez's Liverpool weren't a league team, but they were very strong on the continent, is the same way that I see City in the inverse way. I think as a league team, you're a formidable force, and unbelievable man management leads that to a great consistency. I think sometimes you need that little elevation to go further in these cup competitions. You need something that's going to, provoke a 4-0 win against Barcelona in the semis of the Champions League. That doesn't come from just having a great and consistent squad. That comes from something else. So as much as I'd love, to see City win everything, because I'm always a supporter of English teams in European competitions, I think the fact that it is such a big gap, it is such a chasm, albeit a little bit disappointing, because I would have loved to seen a tight title race. I think that Liverpool's this year's win, it's the largest margin a league has ever been won in European top 5 league history. The earliest the league's ever been won. So I just think you can't argue against that. And then you look at the football that's being played as well. It's not 1 or 2 players scoring; it's a whole squad that's contributing as well. So yeah, I'd have to be completely honest and say Liverpool for me. It's just too strong a call there.
Okay, interesting. I would say, to counter that, I would say for it to be so special, even though you will have a big gap regardless, you're going to have to get over 100 points. Because if you don't get over 100 points, it'll just be special for Liverpool fans. It won't be because I do think this season's been a bit of a poor season. Teams like we haven't been great. There's been no other competition whatsoever from anybody else. I know there wasn't last year, but at least last year there was that real tit for tat. We went on that 14-game run and things like that. And but I do think, and you're 14 points off 100. So for me to make it a really special season, you'd have to be Centurions, and the chances are it looks like you will be. Certainly, if you beat us tomorrow, it's almost inevitable. You'd only need 11 points then out of 6 remaining games. So you would imagine you definitely will be. But it's going to be interesting. Right, on to the last question then. Thoughts on next season? Nick, come to you first. What are your thoughts on next season as a whole? Whenever that starts, and whatever it's going to look like, and God knows whether fans are going to be back in the stadiums or anything else. But what are your thoughts certainly on Liverpool and the title race for next season?
Yeah, it's another interesting one. It's obviously going to be a massively different start to any other Premier League season that's ever been. I think Liverpool will go into the league season as favourites to get the title again, much like when City dominated with the Centurion season. They backed it up and won again in 18-19. But I think in a very similar way, there's going to be a new challenger, perhaps, and it certainly won't be the blowout that it was this season. So certainly Liverpool will back themselves to win the league. Jurgen Klopp said just a few hours ago in his press conference as well, we're not going to defend the Premier League title. We're going to go and attack the next one. So I think with that mentality, and obviously building on the success that they've had in the last 2 seasons, Liverpool will be good value to go into the season as favourites and look to win it again. Obviously, City will be there. I think Chelsea are going to come up really quickly with likes of Werner and Ziyech, etc. coming in, and look, who knows if they go and add Havertz and Chilwell and whoever else that they're rumoured to be interested in. I think they'll have a very quick rise to challenge for the title as well. And like Callum said, I think that this transfer period is going to be very interesting because Liverpool will need to add a couple of pieces just from a depth point of view. And City, we know, obviously have spent very large amounts of money in the last 10 years and have built such an incredible team on the back of that. But now this is probably the first time in a while where people are looking at City and saying, right, they really need to improve. They need to go out again and buy the next star to return themselves to that level. If you like, you talk about Koulibaly or any sort of centre back. I think that's probably the glaringly obvious area that needs strengthening is at the back. Losing David Silva, is Sergio Aguero the man to keep going up front? Obviously, he's having some fitness issues and aging. Like I said before, I don't think Jesus is quite the caliber of player to step up and be the next star for City. So do they add another forward? Missing Leroy Sané was massive. Now he's gone. Do you add another star attacker there as well? So, and of course, this is all going to be made all the more interesting with the financial impact of the pandemic and whether there's a shortened transfer window or different restrictions there as well. So it'll be completely different. It's obviously we're in July now and the season, the season hasn't even started yet, let alone won't finish until next May. So I think Liverpool win the league again, just like City did, winning 2 in a row, but I think it'll be much tighter. Liverpool won't get to the 100 points again. There'll be more losses. I think I am expecting it to be a little bit more competitive. And obviously, assuming the season starts without fans, I think that'll be very different as well, because we know the impact Anfield has with Liverpool. But yeah, tipping Liverpool to go for it again, and City and Chelsea both sort of fighting for second, but really I think they'll be fighting for the title as well, but probably fall just short.
Okay, Alan?
Well, I think that City have got to improve their defence. I think they need at least 2 centre-halves, not just one. I think we're going to lose. We've never replaced Vincent Kompany, which has been the biggest criminal mistake that we've made this season. I think not having him and then losing Laporte, as we spoke about, has killed our challenge off straight away. And that's been the biggest difference between the two teams. I think that if City have had decent defence, we would have had a challenge this year. But they're going to have to buy 2 defenders, central defenders, good ones in my opinion. They're talking about Aki and Koulibaly. And if we got those 2, I'd be quite happy, to be honest with you. And I think you'd see a huge difference with that. So we're losing Silva, which is a big loss. But we have got Foden coming in, and he has to be given a chance to see how he does. He's got a lot of talent and a lot of ability. Bernardo can play in there if he needs to, so we can move him about from playing out wide or in the middle, and he's a fantastic footballer. As far as I think they'll wait till the year after regarding Aguero, because I don't think, especially with COVID there, I think there is going to be restrictions on how much you can spend this season. I think that's not just with City, but with everything and everybody as well. I think Liverpool will have the same issues. United will. As far as the challenge is concerned next year, I do think Chelsea will be in it. United are starting to worry me a little bit now because they're starting to win. And I hope not, because I do not want them anywhere near the title. That would just be
me too.
Always at the window. Don't worry.
Yeah. According to the Manchester Evening News and the press, United have got the best midfielder in the world at the moment. Which, anyway,
did they not turn around and say, "Well, hold on a minute, Bruno Fernandes has got 8 in 8 games in his first 8 games. Didn't Kevin De Bruyne get 9 in his first 8 games? And now suddenly Bruno Fernandes is the best midfielder in the world."
What it's like when you put United shit on to suddenly gone from an average footballer to the best in the world within 10 minutes. That's what tends to be with United. You know the skill there. But I think next season a lot will also depend on the cast appeal with City as well, about which direction they go. So if they get a 2-year ban or even a 1-year ban, do they give the kids a go like Chelsea had done for a year? Because they'll have nothing to lose, if they do that. Or do they have to overspend again like they did initially, because they have to come from a nowhere point at the bottom half of the table and overspend on wages to get the people that they're getting to attract them again, and then it becomes complicated, because you're going to have to pay then to get good players in if you're not in the Champions League. It's as simple as that. So we'll have to wait till next week on that one, because we're all a bit, as a City fan, we're all a bit nervous about that, and hopefully we can overturn it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword for Liverpool fans because, yeah, you'd like to see us knocked out of the Champions League and things like that. But if we are, there's only one trophy we're going all in for, and that's the Premier League. So
and they'll spend, they'll spend.
It's a double-edged sword. You know, I think if I was a Liverpool fan, I'd rather you'd want City in there, more competitions, more rotation. More, if City are banned from Champions League, there's only one competition Guardiola's going for, and that's all out for the Premier League. So, what are your thoughts, Callum?
I think a lot of it just hinges on this, the ruling passed down to City. I think I'm of the opinion that City will almost have a bit of a rebuild if that is upheld. I think you might find yourself losing some of the big names. But I think, like you said, it could be a really good thing. It's similar to Chelsea, where you're losing great talent from your youth academy year in, year out. The fact Sancho's walked out the door and is now worth £100 million is criminal, sort of thing. And that to me is, I think Foden is starting to give a little bit of hope to players. But let's be fair, he's been riding the bench for 4 years, as the next big thing for.
He's only, to be fair, he's only just turned 20,
Yeah.
And we did a Friday night social the other week, and I actually went through your team.
Yeah.
Local player. The only local player in your team is Trent. He's the only local player. I know Curtis Jones and the other kids and things like that. I mean, the one who's really sort of got into the team is Trent Alexander-Arnold. And he's Foden's only just turned 20, and he's actually had quite a number of minutes. I think when you look at some of the he's had over 1,000 minutes.
He's had more minutes than Ryan Giggs at the same age.
Yeah.
All right, there you go.
I know it's a different time, but I mean, so I think I agree.
Yeah, I think that next year we're going to see the return of a top four. I think we're going to see a return of a legitimate top four. I think it's going to be Chelsea, who have showed that they're willing to spend. I don't think they'll challenge. I think they're going to be the fourth team. If I'm honest, I think that Lampard's football philosophy is fantastic, but he doesn't really have a brand of football yet. When you get to the upper echelons of coaching, you're told to develop a philosophy, how you want to play. Pep Guardiola's got a very clear footballing philosophy. Klopp with the gegenpress has got a very clear football philosophy. Lampard for me doesn't. Lampard for me is throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks, and he's found Mason Mount sticks. He's now got Billy Gilmore in the mix. He's Reece James. He's got a lot of young foils who haven't really had a full grueling season. Europe challenging across all fronts. Which literally will be the mandate that, Abramovich and the upper tier of Chelsea comes in and goes, right, this is what you need to do. I think United are back. United will be back. I think that you're going to see.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
I know that. I know that you don't, like it. But for me, the Premier League without United in the top four and pushing isn't the Premier League. I want to see United for the sake of the league's competitive nature. I would love to see a heated derby where it actually means something to beat them. I'm sure City fans crave it as well. Rather than just play some team, you're going to breeze past. Go in and actually be a bit nervous. This could go either way. It's very much a derby. I think they've shown they're going to back Ollie. I think they'll crack up the checkbook. I think you guys will crack up the checkbook as well. I think regardless of COVID, you got to think of. I think the market will limit itself in a lot of ways. Because of everything that's gone on with COVID, but you got to think about where you're getting your money from. Oil sales haven't gone down that much.
I guess you're still filling up your cars, aren't you?
Yeah. Make sure you fill your car up, Callum. You're buying our next player.
But I think before I let you go, I think that the one thing you are going to see more astute buyers. I think the Premier League has gone from everyone looking for their next superstar striker to a workhorse box-to-box midfielder and a centre-back pairing. I think the days of everyone looking for the next Sergio Aguero, Harry Kane, everything like that, are a little bit behind us. I think that everyone's saying shit. Look what Van Dijk and Alisson have done to Liverpool to transform that team. And they're going to go, how can I now get this? The defensive rock of the team is key.
Right, well, that brings us to the end of this preview for the Liverpool game tomorrow. I want to say an absolute massive thank you to Nick, Callum and Alan for getting up early. Nick, thank you very much over there in Melbourne.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on and having a chat. Good fun, and best of luck for the game and for the season going forward. I can't wait for what's to come. And yeah, like Callum said, looking forward to a season next year, hopefully with a little bit more excitement, bit more bite to it.
Well, I hope tomorrow night's got a bit of bite to it, that's for certain. Callum, thank you very much, mate.
No worries. Pleasure talking with you all.
Listen, Alan, as usual, thank you very much, mate.
No worries. I'll speak to you tomorrow.
No problem. Guys, this is Andy from Man City Fan TV. Again, a massive thank you to Nick, Callum and Alan for coming on this preview. Don't forget, subscribe, hit that bell icon and make sure your settings are set to public, not private. Don't forget also to check out tomorrow night's live watch along with Martin on the channel. But anyway, take care. It's going to be a cracker. See you soon.